A realization video. I worked in resorts. I worked in nightclubs. I had incredible amounts of famous people. Bill Gates, his wife, his daughter, you name it. And whatever I deserved, I deserved. We didn't beg them. We did our job. If the drink's $4, it's $4. And then usually I would tip $1. Truly, I tipped $1. I would take back the change and give $1. If it was like $4.50, I'd take back the 50 cents and put down $1. But I didn't say anything to anyone if they stiff me. I didn't expect them stiffing me, but then again, and when people went to the system where they had the guaranteed tips, I didn't. Do you know that? I didn't take the automatic grats. I denied it. And I told them when I handed them the check, there's no automatic gratuity on this. Feel free to tip me based on my service. I waived the auto grats. It always worked out well for me, because I found that with me, they gave me less. They gave me the auto grat. Oh, tips included? Okay. When the auto grat wasn't there, I actually made more money. When the auto grat was there, less money. So I didn't go to other people. I based my shit purely on performance. I didn't go with any guaranteed shit. Why do you think I was fine with financial service and that? But the thing is, when the system is rigged and people lie, cheat, and steal, well, that's a whole different story. And that's when the system fails. And that's why I like regulators going in and saying, you're fucking terminated. Like my nephew Ryan. He was banned from financial services. Another guy in my church, Phil, he was kicked out of financial services. I do believe in terminating people's career in an industry. You keep on saying everybody should be saved. I don't. God created hell. He realized with Satan, not everybody should be saved. And he was his most beloved, his closest to him. And that's why I say, if it's your brother or sister in that, God doesn't give a fuck. That's the point of the Bible. As I told my family, which they don't understand, it's biblical. As God did to Satan, you do that and you're fucking done, and I'm turning you in, and I hope you get the fucking electric chair. So the point of man is supposed to learn from that story that no, even your most beloved, like say Jeffrey Dahmer's mother, should know that Jeffrey should be fried. If she wanted to save him, she should have did an intervention long before that. That's why I say about knowing your partner and intervening. And God was supposed to show that with Jen, she was supposed to show she understands and can do proper intervention. And I told her challenge would be coming. Mine's separate. Hers was whether she would do the right things with me to intervene to save me. Would she work through the challenges, go through her resources, talk to her medical friends, do the hard work, come up with the information, and then apply it? Like, take me by hand and let's go do counseling. I brought up when we were in the relationship, I talked about going to marital counseling. I already planned it out. Once we were engaged, we were going to counseling. I brought it up many times to her. We even took a quiz, a premarital counseling quiz. So she knew this was all preparation to get her in the right mindset, giving her all the tools so she can pull from them. But you also learn when people are under pressure, they don't think correctly. They get tunnel vision, which I didn't prepare her for. That's my fault. I forgot about how people get tunnel vision. So I needed to make it simple, easy, like putting something on the refrigerator. That, anonymous counseling. Or spousal, I could have put it up there. EAP, Employee Assistance Program. And spouses have full access. And you can call anonymously without your husband around. And put it on the fridge. Like drug counseling or Alcoholics Anonymous. Call an 800 number. Truly, for Alcoholics Anonymous, Gambling Anonymous, call it, and you could do it in private. And then somebody can set you up with an AA meeting, and you show up, and there's name badges. You write your name, and you can go under a alias if you want, like Wonder Twin, but they know it's an alias, and you're doing it because you just don't want to disclose your name, but they already know you've been verified through the system. Oh, you've been verified through the system. They have to have your driver's license, they have to verify everything, and then they keep the information, and then you go into the group, and all they know is your name is the Wonder Twin. They keep your privacy. They don't know where you live or anything else if you want. And you can go into the group. These are different groups where people feel they want more ultra private. So you can have more where they want fellowship and hang out. And then other ones where they just want to go into the counseling and then leave, and they don't want the fellowship. And that's fine. It's just like my friend went to a church downtown in Chicago. He's Korean. And they didn't do fellowship. They did do all kinds of missionary stuff and everything else, but they didn't do fellowship. But for him, he said, that's fine. I don't want to do fellowship. I want to hang out with my outside friends. I go in there for one purpose, and I have my other friends for another purpose. Not everybody going to church needs fellowship. People can pick and choose on how much they want to interact. But everybody is identified. That's for safety of everybody, but it's not disclosed to everybody. Loose lips sink ships. But the whole point about it is that, yeah, some churches are more on this and you want more of a social aspect, then go to that. They do more fellowships. They don't do volunteering. And they just focus on building the internals of the congregation. And you're looking to make more friends. So find a church that does a lot of fellowship. They go bowling and other things. Truly, my church, Lakeview, they went bowling and did other things besides charity work. But again, you can find a church that does more fellowship. If that's what you want, find another church that you can pass like ships in the night. You want more privacy. You want to go in, you want to do the service, you'll do your duties, your prayers, your penance, whatever it may, and then you're out. You work with people on certain groups, but you're not looking to make friends. You go in and you do your work, stay on the mercy committee, and then you leave. You have a whole outside life, and all you're there is to do certain things with inside the church. There is nothing wrong with that. You're mission oriented, and the people you want to socialize are separate. So again, you have to find the right church, and that's why I talked about church shopping and everything. And figure out for you and your husband. So don't figure out like you have to be oversharing. Find the right church. Like he was part of it. And he was at the Salvation Army, a Korean church in Chicago, where my NCPC and Lakeview and that did more fellowship. He just wanted to go in there and do God's work and then leave. So he was part of different groups, and they spend their time focusing on it, and then they leave. It's just like going to a business. You don't have to be friends with the people you work with. You go in, you do your job, and leave. So again, some employers don't understand that. At Baja, we went golfing together, and there were groups that went golfing together. Other people didn't. They came in, they did their thing, and left. They didn't participate in the fellowship. I went golfing with the bartenders, Chucky, me, Max, and Kenny, and a bunch of us. And yes, we took a case of beer with us. But we did fellowship because we wanted to hang out with each other. And so other people, they just wanted to go in and out. And they did their job and everything, then they left. They leave. So you have to understand that with an organization, some people want more inside connection, some people don't. And so human resources has to understand that these people just won't show up to these functions. And that's fine. You don't need to do it that way. Team building's at work. You do certain things to build team. Fellowship is to build more interpersonal outside connections. But some people don't want that. They don't want to build that outside interpersonal connections. And that's absolutely fine. They go out there, they do the team building when there's a company event that's focused on team building. HR says you got to show for this because this is about team building. These other things, you don't need to show for the Christmas party. That's fine. Truly. Like at GCG, that was my first, I think my first corporate. We had a small one at Vanguard. Not a whole office one. We had our group. But the bigger one, GCG, was my first corporate Christmas party, per se. And not everybody came. But it was fun. I got to hang out with my friends, and I had a really good time at the Christmas party. And one of my friends was married to a Persian guy. She was a female. I had a big crush on her. She was awesome. And she was married to a Persian guy in Chicago, and she used to invite me down to his restaurant. I never ended up going because I separated from them, but she was great. We were friends. Me, her, Michael Gluck, we had this little group of us that were really close. I ran the marathon with Michael and Rachel. So we had this little group, and it was kind of great. It wasn't like we were mean to anyone. We weren't. We were very social, but we also spent most of our time in social environments with each other. So the whole point of it is that you don't have to be universal. You can pick and choose. And they get the right to pick and choose. And when you don't agree, you don't agree. But again, I see my faults with Jen in understanding that and her lack of maturity. And I would assume she would have went to her mother and talked about it as well, because her mother dealt with her father and how she dealt with it, and it would have helped. My breakdown would have solved the problem between Jen's mother and father's marriage. It would have solved the problem between Jen's mother and father. That problem would have disappeared. If Jen did the right thing with me, the next evolution was to go back and reunite her father and mother's marriage. But because she didn't want to do the hard work, and my bad for understanding she got tunnel vision, didn't understand, but she doesn't understand all that hardship her mother and father endured afterwards. It would have disappeared. I was already talking to her about her father and reestablishing him. And if she would have worked through mine, her father had the same thing. And again, she would have solved her mother and father's problem, and it would have been awesome. I would have loved to hang out with her father. Truly. I was looking forward to calling him Dad. I miss my father. I would have been able to call him Dad. And I was truly looking forward to calling him Father, Dad. Now I'm starting to cry. But she doesn't understand how traumatic it was. Just like Irene. She got skinny, and she was with us, and she was going down the right thing, and then she got fat again. And she was motivated by me, as Jen told me directly. And she got in shape and everything and was looking really good. And then she wouldn't have suffered with Arlie in that, because she was undesirable. And she was at my table with Michael and that, and she got really heavy and she was undesirable. And that would have never happened. Jen doesn't understand the separation rippled negatively through everybody, including myself. Everything we had in place and would have accomplished never happened. And everybody was less than, not better off, including me, suffered. If she would have just suffered through it and did the right thing, things would have been incredible. My brother would have been out of my mother's. He would have had his life. He would have had a girl. Truly. He would have had a flourishing career. Everything got set back literally decade to decades. So she doesn't understand. It wasn't only us that suffered. Everybody else collapsed around it. The stuff we were planning for Waltz Brothers would have happened decades ago. We had all kinds of plans. And all those got shattered. So thinking that things were better off, it's untrue. People suffered greatly, including me. It didn't need to be. And that's why God warned you this time, if you fuck with me, you die. As I pointed out again in the biblical verse, I have nothing to fear. You have everything to fear. And if you fuck with me, you die. You impoverish me, you die. You make my life miserable, you die. You attack me, you die. What do you think God did with Satan, his most beloved morning star? He sent him into eternal death for his betrayal. And lots of others with him. Not just him, but all the others. Die 1,000 deaths, and then 1,000 more, and then 1,000 more, and then 1,000 more. No repentance, perpetual suffering. What does El Chapo get in his prison? I watched with Charles Manson. Where was the suffering? His pen pals, his meals, his good life. He almost lived to 90 years old. So where was the suffrage? Where was the penance? 34,000 people he killed. And many more. Directly they say 3,000 to 4,000. Indirectly 34,000. And then if you move further out from overdoses and destructions of families and so on, it is unbelievable. And he doesn't sleep out in Tent City, and it doesn't rain on him, and, he just gets nice air-conditioned cell, and he's in a federal pen, Fed Country Club. He's not in the general population where he has to worry about his life. So again, I don't know in our correctional facilities if they're sending the right message. So that's why I say pastors don't talk about Satan. They don't talk about how God sent all them to die infinitely, skinning them alive forever. So again, good for God, good for me. So John Lennon, I just heard his song, right? Look at John Lennon's life. Look at where he came from. Look at all the hard work he did. He married Yoko Ono. He did everything right. He invited people into his life. He had all the peace and love and everything. And he still got shot and killed. So it's not all about love. That's the point of Satan in the Bible. It's not all about love. God is all about righteousness and justice. And I pointed out in numerous Bible verses, it's all about righteousness and justice. If you give somebody something, it's to restore them. And if they don't restore themselves, they show they're unworthy of the gift. So again, restorative justice. It takes two to tango. So learn from the Bible. So I don't know what Bible you're reading, where you think things can just go by and everybody and no one should be punished. And I disagree. There would have been no Jesus and the disciples suffering greatly. And again, they didn't deserve it in that way. As I show you with Paul, He sat on boards. And those boards ended up having people executed. But again, he was part of a panel. But when people say they were, no, they weren't. They were working with, as best they could, they needed more enlightenment about morals and justice to be more righteous. But Paul was trying to be very righteous. So you miss it. So again, it's a big difference. So make no mistake about it. It's about righteousness and justice. And so understand that. And I'll put out the stuff about Paul again. But again, everybody, it's ridiculous that they think they can do all this shit and then they hide from it. And all these people like Josh and Benji who pissed all over my fucking helmet for months, and because they graduated, because I couldn't catch them, because no one helped me, and I went in all these people asking for assistance, and they denied me. They denied me. From the captains of the team to the coaches to many others. So it wasn't like I didn't reach out and try to address the issue. I went all over the place in address, just like the breakdown Jen didn't know. I was going all over the place trying to address the issue. So it wasn't like I wasn't trying. She didn't see that. I was trying my ass off. So when I tell you she has to repent, you don't understand. God saw all I was doing. I was working my ass off, trying to do everything possible to get things right, to make sure we can move forward in a blessed relationship. So she's not innocent. And I do love her and I do trust her, but she's got to get over her stupidity. And part of penance is realizing when you fuck up and doing it and atoning for your fuck up. But these people go to prison and they don't atone for their fuck ups. They don't repent. And then they come out and do it again and they go back. It's like a revolving door. Like the guy who had his daughter killed in California. He had a rap sheet that was incredibly long, and he went in and out of prison continuously. And then the guy who came across the border, we kicked him out of the country, and he came back in numerous times before he killed the girl on the pier. But we deported him 5, 6, 7 times. It was ridiculous how many times he was deported, and he came back in, and we would deport him again. How many times do you cross the border illegally before you put them away for the rest of their life? Truly, how many times do you cross the border illegally before you put them away for the rest of their life? Because you can't put them out there again, because if you put them back, they come back across. So how many times are you going to allow them? And ask the guy that his daughter got killed on the pier over a cell phone, that how many times are you going to allow somebody to illegally cross the border, deport them, and have them come back before you don't allow it anymore and you put them away for the rest of their fucking life? There has to be One too many and you're gone for fucking ever. 3 strikes and you're out. You come across again and you're going away forever. Putting the fear in them. Do not fucking come back.